And I think that's also always the thing, like if people want to ask like, oh, what's your one best advice, or like, what's your one point of hope? But I think it's also really important to think about those who are currently at their worst, because I think they probably don't see hope. At the moment, they probably see despair and helplessness and like, oh my God, how did she go from being in a wheelchair to actually hiking again? Or we also didn't even speak about your pilot's license, right? You're doing amazing stuff. And so I think maybe in a few words, can you just, give some advice for those who are currently going through the worst?
Well, I, even the worst that I have been through may not be someone else's worst. So my worst was probably the time that I was in hospital being completely stuck in bed. And I had to be flipped, to avoid getting bed sores. That for me was the worst because I couldn't do even very basic things like going to the toilet on myself. It's things that a healthy person takes for granted every day, which I no longer take for granted. And I did wonder, that time when you're spending time in a hospital, being in a very solitary place, I wondered if life was going to get any better. But I think the one thing that myositis has taught me is really patience. Patience in patience is not an easy thing because, as a patient, you just think, oh, just give me the drug and take it and then things will bounce back, and it's one of the biggest lessons really. And I still struggle with this today because I'm type A personality and I'm a doer and a giver and I want to get things done and I want things to move forwards. But I realize that I also have to mind my own needs. So if there's a time to rest and there's a time to stop, I need to pay attention to that. My best advice for anyone, I think, going through this, or not even myositis, it could be any disease, is that it's okay to feel frustrated. Today you feel frustrated, but use the time that you're feeling frustrated to maybe think about learning something, learning more about yourself or learning more about what you have. Because I think during my journey, the more I learned about what I had and the things that could or could not happen, the more it helped me to help the people that are supposed to be helping me. Because it being a rare disease, they don't have as much experience as yourself. And you being the patient, you are your best advocate, you are your best medical record keeper, and you are the best person to tell your physicians or any other healthcare professional how you are feeling. Through every stage of my recovery and then my sort of onward journey, I tried to celebrate the small wins. So like the win of, I don't know, today I can lift my toothbrush into my mouth to brush my teeth. Maybe the next week or the week after, I want to raise my hairbrush high enough to brush my own hair. So these are the little steps that you have to kind of set yourself, celebrate the small wins and then give yourself a bigger target. And then, all these small steps kind of add up to bigger things. I did not imagine that I would be here today doing what I'm doing. There were no plans. Switzerland was not in the plan. I never even thought about the country. Working in the pharmaceutical industry was certainly something I never, ever wanted to do when I was training to be a physician myself. But here I am. Hiking is still something that I would love to do. I did do some hikes in the last 10 years. I have to say I was much stronger 10 years ago than I am today. So part of the reason why I started to learn to be a pilot was because I live in a country with these massive mountains that are beautiful and I can't climb them. So the only thing that I could do was to fly over them or fly through them. And that took another level of resilience from me because I didn't think I could do it. The first step was even just to get the medical certificate because I sent all my papers in and the the FAA of Switzerland just said, nope. And, it's just one fight after the other. And I think many patients are at the stage where they're struggling because they can't see into the future. But, my advice is don't see too far ahead. Just see, week by week, month by month, deal with that one stage at a time, and the future will come.
Yeah, thank you so, so much for sharing that, because it also puts things so much into perspective about how far we've come. Like you say, being able to wash your own hair, to lift a toothbrush, to lift it for 2 minutes and without being shaky and sweaty and kind of needing to lay down after that, or even being able to get out of your pajamas. These things are real struggles, and it is amazing to see how far we both have come. And I'm Austrian myself, so I love the mountains, and I hope one day I'll fly with you over the mountaintops again.
Absolutely.
That would be fabulous. Yes.
Yeah.